Hi, everybody. It's Catie Harris from Philly Wellness Center. And today we're talking about, does estrogen really cause cancer? Right? So for decades, estrogen has been labeled as the bad guy. I get into a lot of social media stuff. I try not to, but the estrogen has really been labeled the bad guy. So this is what everybody says. This hormone causes breast cancer and fibroids and all kinds of female chaos. But what if that's not the full story? What if estrogen itself isn't dangerous, but it's what your body does with it is the real problem? And that changes everything. Okay, so today we're diving deep into the biochemistry of estrogen and why it's been misunderstood, what's estrogen dominance, what it really means in your body, your metabolism, and even your cancer risk. All right, so here's a simple version of the old story. The old story is estrogen makes cells grow, cancer's uncontrolled, and therefore estrogen must cause cancer, right? Wrong. But that's been the logic for half a century. And while it sounds straightforward and it's biochemically false, that's not what happens. Estrogen does not mutate DNA or turn healthy cells into cancer cells. It just doesn't. It's physically impossible. And there's 10 million thousand biochemical research studies that you can go look at it. It's an indisputable fact. Estrogen does not mutate DNA. What it does is stimulate normal cell activity, growth, repair, and communication. That's a big part of what estrogen does. Problems arise only when detoxification and balance fail, when estrogen's power isn't regulated or cleared properly. So there's a big difference between estrogen causes cancer and estrogen isn't detoxified properly. So there's three phases of estrogen. So the liver breaks estrogen down into three main metabolites. If you think of them as three different personalities, okay? So we have 2-hydroxyestrogen, and this is your calm, protective version. It helps your body grow safely, keeps your cells in check. As a postmenopausal woman, this is the estrogen I want. I want the nice 2-hydroxyestrogen. There's two others. Now there's 4-hydroxyestrogen, and we'll call that one the hothead, right? So when it builds up, it can form reactive molecules that damage DNA. And then the 16-hydroxyestrogen, which is the overachiever. It promotes cell growth, but too much leads to overproliferation like fibroids or cysts. So a healthy body keeps these in balance, but inflammation, toxins, or genetics can shift you towards the bad metabolites, and that's where the trouble starts. So when estrogen is metabolized down the wrong pathway, it creates something called quinones. These are unstable molecules that attach to DNA to form what scientists call adducts, which are tiny mutations that over time can trigger cancerous changes. Normally, your body detoxifies these through methylation and glutathione, which is your internal cleanup crew. But when detox is sluggish, with these estrogen quinones, they linger, they oxidize, and they start to do damage. Now, here's the part that pharmaceutical studies often ignore. So it's not the estrogen level that determines risk. It's your detox capacity. The enzyme COMT, which you can get tested in any genetic test, but the enzyme COMT helps neutralize reactive estrogens through methylation. We test methylation by just checking a homocysteine level so you can see if you have, you're overmethylating. Glutathione transferases bind and remove those reactive estrogens. So if you're low in methyl donors like methylfolate, methyl B12, or you're depleted in N-acetylcysteine, glutathione due to oxidative stress, poor sleep, or toxins, then the reactive estrogens hang around. That's why two women can have the same exact estrogen levels, but very different risks, because one person is clearing it efficiently, while the other one basically stores it like chemical waste. So your body has two main estrogen receptors. Think of them as two different locks that estrogen can open. So there's ER alpha that says grow, divide, activate, and ER beta, ER meaning estrogen receptor, calm, down, repair, and rest. So healthy tissues are going to have a balance of both. You're going to have ER alpha and you're going to have ER beta. But when you have inflammation, toxins, stress, when that starts to dominate, the estrogen receptor alpha becomes louder, more growth signals, fewer repair signals. That's not a problem of estrogen itself. It's the problem of context. So now let's talk about estrogen dominance for a second. That doesn't always mean you have too much estrogen. It often means that you have too little progesterone to balance it. Progesterone is your natural brake pedal, and it calms cell growth. It supports liver detox and keeps inflammation low. But chronic stress, aging, perimenopause, all of these will lower progesterone really first, leaving estrogen unopposed. So what's the result? The result is breast tenderness, bloating, mood swings, heavy periods, fibroids, and yes, even those pesky estrogen metabolites. So here's what really gets mentioned though. Estrogen itself is profoundly protective when it's balanced. It strengthens your bones, it keeps your arteries elastic, it powers your mitochondria, it protects your neurons, and it even supports DNA repair. So you don't want to get rid of estrogen. In fact, modern biochemical research, not drug company trials, show that estrogen is anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and anti-aging when properly metabolized. Women who maintain physiological estrogen levels through bioidentical therapy often have lower mortality rate, lower cancer rates than those who don't. So most of the studies that link hormones to cancer didn't actually study estrogen. So they studied synthetic estrogens and progestins, the chemicals that mimic estrogen but bind differently to receptors, often overstimulating estrogen receptor alpha without balancing the effects of estrogen receptor beta. This is like replacing organic food with plastic replicas. Your cells can't process them the same way. So when you hear hormone therapy causes cancer, remember it depends entirely on the form, the balance, and the body's detox ability. So, the interesting thing as well about the pharmaceutical industry and FDA rules about what constitutes a medication has to block or alter a pathway or in some way alter the physical body, right? But is that really what you want? You want something to come into the body and block and alter the pathway the body knows what to do. It knows how to heal itself. So why would you come in and start micromanaging what the body's doing, right? If the body is doing a workaround, it's because it's lacking something. It doesn't need more roadblocks placed, right? It's like, you're driving somewhere and I don't know, part of the bridge is damaged or whatever, and you have to take a workaround. You got to go around to another bridge, but then the police decide they're going to start blocking off roads so that you can't go the next most direct route, and maybe they don't have no idea what's going on. So that's kind of like what happens when you start taking these medications without really understanding why. And that's the question you should be asking, like, why is the body doing this? Because if it's doing it, it's got a really, really good reason. The body is designed to live and thrive, and that's exactly what it's trying to do. All right, so here's the real picture. Estrogen itself is not a carcinogen. It's a growth signal. And what turns that growth signal toxic are poor methylation and low glutathione, chronic inflammation, environmental xenoestrogens, a lack of progesterone balance, and mitochondrial dysfunction and oxidative stress. So when you repair those systems, right, estrogen goes back to what it's supposed to be doing, which is protect, repair, and renew. So the next time that you hear that estrogen causes cancer, just remember it's not the hormone itself, it's the environment it lives in, and that's what we have to fix. Support your detox pathways, restore hormone balance, and your estrogen becomes your ally, not your enemy. Because real health isn't about silencing hormones, it's about letting them speak the right language again. All right, if this is helpful, please drop a comment, let me know. This might generate a lot of discussion. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and I'll see you in the next video.